to the She Shed. Today's tutorial is going to be on leg warmers. Let's bring the leg warmers back, but not in the 80s style. So any of you 80 kids out there, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Leg warmers were very fashionable back in the 80s, but they were Larry fluoro things. But look at these. Look how soft. These are beautiful. And they're great to not only just wear as leg warmers, but you could wear them so you stop the welly rub or the gumboot rub. Give you that bit of warmth. And the reason why these came about is because I had a lady who is wheelchair bound, and whenever she was around, the trousers went up and she was cold, so she asked me to make some leg warmers, and I'm very glad that she did. So they are very beautiful. What are these made out of? I have used for this, it's called Florentine Collection. This yarn is known as Venice, made in Italy, and I got it from Spotlight. Now you are going to need 3 balls of this to make these leg warmers, but you can use any yarn you like. Just make sure that when you're doing your rib, which is where we start, that it fits around your calf or under your knee, and that you have the correct hook to go with it. And you can use any yarn for this, but this one here requires a 7mm hook, which is what I will be using, and it is known as, well, of course it doesn't have a color, so it's 3720, and you need, it's made from acrylic, wool, silk and linen. So it is very soft, very gorgeous, really lovely, and will warm your legs. The hook I am using is my 7mm hook. You will need a pair of scissors, your yarn needle, a stitch marker, and if you want a stitch counter, do that as well. Alright, let's get this started. To start, we will be doing the ribbing up the top. So how we do that is create a slip knot, and put on your hook, and we will be chaining 5 plus 1, so 6 altogether, 3, 4, 5, 6, and to do the rib stitch we will be going into that V. So you'll see that the front of your stitch is a V and the back of your stitch has a little loop. So we want to do all of our stitches into the middle of that V for the whole of the rib stitch. So we will miss the first chain and go into the second chain. So put your hook in there, grab your yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn and pull through the 2 loops on the hook, and that creates a single crochet. So all the rib stitch is created by single crochet. Go into your next chain, grab the yarn, pull it through, grab the yarn, pull through the 2 loops on your hook, and continue doing this to the end, and you should have 5 stitches. So it's 3, 4, 5. Then you chain 1 and turn your work, and then we continue going into the middle of the V. Put your hook in, grab your yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn and pull through the 2 on the hook, and you will be doing 5 stitches every row. So I count as I go along on every row to make sure that I have 5 stitches. Then you chain 1 and turn and continue. Now remember, do not go into the chain here. You're not doing a stitch in the chain, you're doing a stitch in the next one along. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and chain 1 and turn. So we will continue doing this for 26 rows. Now this is 26 rows that I measured will fit me comfortably around my calf. If you want it longer, let's say you want it up under your knee, so measure it under there. If you want it shorter, like halfway up your calf, then measure it there. And all you need to do is just wrap your rib around your calf until it fits comfortably. You don't want to have it way too tight, and you don't want to have it too loose. So measure it to fit your calf, and for me, with this yarn, it was 26 rows. So if you're following along with me, crochet your 26 rows of rib, and I will meet you back here when you've done your 26 rows. When you have done your 26 rows, all the rows that you require, we will want to join it together. However, make sure that you're finishing your row at the opposite end to where your tail is, and you'll come to realize why in a moment. So once you've got your finishing end opposite your tail, bring the two together, and we're going to slip stitch the seam together. Go into the very, very tippy top, stitch up here, grab the yarn and pull through both loops on your hook. Go to the next stitch on one side into the V, and go to the corresponding stitch on the other side. Grab your yarn and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. And that's how you slip stitch a seam together. So go to your next stitch, and then the corresponding stitch on the other side, and go through. And keep doing that until you've got your seam sewn together. The last one always seems to be the trickiest. There we go. Okay, and then turn your work inside out. There we go. Chain 1. And now what we're going to do is double crochet a stitch at the top of every row. So the rows, as you can see, are really easy to see because one is up and the other one's down. Next one's up, the other one's down. So you're going to put a stitch at the top of each one of these rows. So therefore you should have 26 stitches. Now as I do the stitches into the top of each row, I'm also going to stitch over the tail. So therefore you don't have to weave it in later. So we're going to do half double crochets. So yarn over into the top of the first row, grab your yarn, pull it through, and grab your yarn and pull through the 3 on your hook. Next row, and keep doing that on every top of every row, weaving in your tail, and then when you've done it, there we go, just keep going. And when you finish that, if you're following along with me, you will have 26 stitches at the end, or however many stitches corresponds to how many rib rows you did for your leg, or the person you're making it for. Okay, so when you have finished making your 26 stitches, if you're following along with me, or however many it requires for you and your leg, we are not going to slip stitch the row together. we're going to continue working in the round. So now what we're doing is working on the body of the leg. So we've done our rib and we're working on this body here. So we've done our first row, and what we're going to do is keep working around and around and around. Now the reason why is because we don't want to create a seam. And as you can see, there is no seam there. You have no idea where the start or the finish is. And that makes a much better look for your leg warmer. So how we do this is you come to, that's where the chain 1 was. We want to skip over that and we want to continue our half double crochets as if we haven't even stopped. But don't go on too far, go back to where the end of that row was, and I recommend putting in a stitch marker. Now the reason why is so that your rows do still stay even and you know where the row is, and by the time you finish doing your amount of rows up your leg, you will have that even and you can just guide all the way up to the top and keep the same amount of rows. Now if you are following along with me, we're going to do 24 rows. Now this was for the length of my leg. You can make it longer or shorter depending on what you want for your leg. So I made this, so this goes from my top of my calf down to my ankle, and that's the rows, and then from my ankle I continue on with the rib at the other end, and I will show you that when we get back because it's a bit different to the top rib. So do as many stitches, as many rows as you like, so that this will end up to your ankle. So whether you want to do it from your knee, mid-calf, top of your calf, however long you want your leg warmer to be, do that many rows until you've got to the top of your ankle. And then I'll come back and meet you back here so that I can show you how to do the rib at the other end. But if you are following along with me, it is 24 rows, and I'll meet you back at the end of the 24 rows. Now that you have done your 26 rows, or whatever amount of rows you needed to do for the length of your leg, now we're going to do the top. And this is also ribbing, but a different way to rib. So what we are going to do is front post and back post double crochet. So how we do this is we're going to start off with a front post double crochet followed by a back post double crochet, front post, back post, front post, back post, and this will create the rib. So to do a front post double crochet is yarn over, go into that first stitch, behind that first stitch, all the way behind like that. Grab the yarn, pull it through, and then do a double crochet, which is yarn over and through the first 2 stitches on your hook, loops on your hook, and then yarn over and through the last 2 loops on your hook. Now go down and remove your stitch marker from the bottom and put it up the top to the last stitch of your previous row. So the stitch before that front post double crochet you just did. Now we're going to do a back post double crochet. So that's yarn over, go behind your work into the next stitch. So bringing your hook forward, past that stitch, hook back, grab the yarn and pull it through. Now this can be a bit tricky, so sometimes twisting might help, and you will get better at it the more you do it. So once again, yarn over from the back of your work, coming forward, past that stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through. See, let me do this without talking. There we go. And then do your double crochet, yarn over through the first 2 loops on your hook, yarn over through the last 2 loops on your hook. Now the next stitch is going to be your front post, which is yarn over, and then behind the stitch there, grab a yarn, pull it through, and then do your double crochet. And then the next stitch is going to be a back post, yarn over, behind your work, bring your hook forward, in front of that stitch, back, grab your yarn, pull it through, and then do your double crochet. So keep doing that. Your front post followed by your back post. Front post followed by your back post. Front post, back post. So keep doing that for all your stitches, and I will meet you back here when you come to the end of the row. When you come back to your stitch marker, which should be the last stitch of that previous row, that should be a back post double crochet. So you can move your stitch marker out of the way and then do your back post double crochet. Now I put the stitch marker back in there so I at least know where the end of the row is, the round, and then we just repeat that again. So you just continue going around, so everywhere where it's popping out, which is your front post double crochet, you're going to do another front post, and where it's going in, you're going to do your back post, which theoretically should just be continuing on as if you haven't changed at all, because it will all line up. So just do one more row of that, and that is your rib row completed at the bottom of your leg warmer, and I will meet you at the back of this row to just finish off the leg warmer. And your last stitch of the round will be a back post double crochet, and that brings us to the end. So you can remove your stitch marker, get a nice length so you can sew it in, snip it off, and just slip stitch into the next stitch. And then bring it through and you have finished. Just sew in all your ends. So sew in this end. And there is your finished leg warmer. And there we are, pair of leg warmers. So I hope you've enjoyed that tutorial, and if you do these leg warmers and you take a photo, and I'd love to have a look at it, please share it with me on my Instagram page, which is lucky_platypus1, or go to my website www.luckyplatypus.com.au. I hope you've enjoyed that. Let's bring fashionable leg warmers back into fashion. Alright everybody, have a great day, take care, and I'll see you next time at the She Shed. Bye everyone!